UK and China need a long-term, consistent and comprehensive strategic partnership. And it's vital that we build a more sophisticated relationship. I think that working together on issues like climate change, global stability, during challenging times in the world, is precisely what we should be doing as we build this relationship in the way that I've described.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Buchan, the Mirror's political editor, speaking to you from the Forbidden City in Beijing. Keir Starmer has just had a highly anticipated meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. It went on much longer than we'd expected. Understand that they had a bilateral meeting, then a private chat, then lunch, which sounded like it had quite a lot of courses. This meeting has been highly anticipated. A UK PM hasn't been on Chinese soil for 8 years. They talked about making a bit of progress on getting visa-free travel, about tariffs, but there were also quite a lot of difficult things raised. We understand that the Prime Minister raised the issue of human rights, about the freedom of pro-democracy campaigner and British national Jimmy Lai, the issue of Ukraine. Interestingly, at the top of the meeting, President Xi talked a bit about the twists and turns in the UK-China relationship, in a bit of a swipe at the Conservatives, who were quite hostile to China over the last sort of 8 years. He also made a point about how Labour governments have done well for UK-China relationships. So again, a bit of the swipe at the Tories there. And he talked about challenges with the whole global order and how countries are sort of behaving almost like it's a bit of a jungle, bit of a swipe at Donald Trump there, I think. So highly consequential meeting and lots to dig into in the coming days.
I made a promise 18 months ago when we were elected into government that I would make Britain face outward again, because, as we all know, events abroad affect everything that happens back in our home countries. Our international partnerships help us deliver the security and prosperity the British people deserve. And that is why I've long been clear that the UK and China need a long-term, consistent and comprehensive strategic partnership. And I look forward to taking our relationship further, focused on delivering growth and security for Britain. My only misgiving is that the visit is so short, because the feeling of the delegation is that the more they can see of China, the better.
Prime Minister, your impressions of President Xi, is he someone you can do business with?
Yes, we had a very good, productive session with real concrete outcomes, and it was a real strengthening of the relationship, and that's in the national interest because, of course, there are huge opportunities here in China. It's the second biggest economy in the world, and that's why we've got such a big business delegation. A lot of the discussion was about how we open up access for those opportunities, focusing, as I always do, on how is this going to be delivered back in the United Kingdom, how does it benefit people back at home. And we made some really good progress on tariffs for whisky, on visa-free travel to China, and on information exchange and cooperation on irregular migration, focusing particularly on small boats and engine parts. So a very good constructive meeting with real outcomes, and that's very much in our national interest.
Yeah, tell us more about those concrete outcomes as you describe them, say on visa-free travel. What in specific terms have you agreed?
Well, we've agreed that on tariffs for whisky, we're looking at how they're to be reduced, what the time frame is, visa-free travel, how far, how much, and when that can start, and on the information exchange on small boats, the cooperation that we need, within a dialogue actually about greater strategic focus on security and defence. But for us it's very important on small boats that we get our arms around the engines that are being used in those small boats. So on all those three areas, but they're examples of a much wider opening of access for business that we discussed at great length in terms of the fact that after 8 years, this is the first visit by a Prime Minister, and we wanted to make sure that we've got that strategic approach on all of these issues.
President Xi's words and his tone seemed warm. What do you say to folk back home who might feel a bit squeamish about that?
Well, we did have a good meeting, and a long meeting as well. We had the formal parts, we had some informal parts, and then we continued over lunch. And So the relationship is in a good place, a strong place. And what I'd say to everybody here is that I always act in our national interest. And therefore the question for me is, how does this accelerate and deliver back at home? I know that whatever's going on in the world, the most important thing to the vast majority of people is the cost of living. So opening up access to business, opportunities, seizing those opportunities, which then gets reflected in better businesses, in jobs, in price reductions at home, really, really matter. And so we made real progress on all of those areas.
There are, though, big differences, significant differences between the UK and China in terms of outlook. How forcefully did you raise issues such as the drilling of the pro-democracy campaign in July, the treatment of the Uyghurs, for instance?
Well, we raised those issues as you would expect. Part of the rationale for engagement is to make sure that we can both seize the opportunities that are available, which is what we've done, but also have a mature discussion about issues that we disagree on. Yes, we did have a respectful discussion about that, raised those issues, as you would expect. But that, if you like, is part and parcel of the reason to engage. It is in our national interest, it gives us great opportunities, but it also gives us the opportunity to have those discussions about areas where we disagree.
The final question on a wider topic. President Trump has said a massive armada, as he described it, is moving quickly towards Iran and that time is running out. Is time running out? Do you think President Trump is acting in the appropriate way here?
Well, the big issue, the big challenge here is to ensure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear programme, and we're all absolutely agreed on that, and we're working with allies to that end, and that is the central focus of what I'm doing with our allies.
And President Trump's actions are the right ones?
Well, we all agree that ensuring that Iran doesn't get that nuclear programme is a number one priority, and that's what we're working on.
Am I okay? Yeah.
They will sign the MOU on cooperation in technical and vocational education and training. Please exchange.
What is it?
Hi, everyone, looking this way. This way, everyone. Here, this way. Last one.